I'm back at the first 3D printed house in Florida that has a permit. It looks totally different now that they've stuccoed the exterior. It's still a work in progress and an active construction site, but we're going to take a quick look around and then come back in a week and see how much progress they've made.
Well, this is what I meant by the in progress, but yeah, so we got ceilings going in. That's going to help so we can finish off the stucco to the corners. That's kind of the theory there. We have all the scratch coats done, and then we have the finish coat here.
Wow, nice.
It turned out real nice.
Very Florida.
Yeah, we went with, really it's just white, a white mix. We'll probably end up painting it white as well. Yeah, it turned out real nice. And
so
door trims in.
After the scratch coat, you finish it all like this wall.
Right, so here's the scratch coat. This is the coat that we put on over the top of the printed layers to get it, flat, and then we'll have one more layer of the white.
You run into anything unexpected with the scratch coat?
More mud than I anticipated with the way that the thickness of the layers and the depth of the layers. We just had to put more mud on there. Matter of fact, we really had two scratch coats. We had one just to get it close to flush, and then this one for to make it presentable for the final coat. So it ended up being three, but I think we can avoid that for next time. We can have cleaner layers. And then of course we had to do the trim, and we were kind of back and forth on what to do with the trim, as far as like just having the door jamb and mudding to the door jamb and making rounded corners. But we ended up going with this just basically custom-made wood frame to fit around, just because of it got too complicated to try to make the stucco work.
Sure.
So we didn't have the exact print area that we wanted to as far as the dimensions, so it just ended up being too much of trouble.
The door will be way easier this way.
Yeah.
And it looks good.
Yeah, no, it turned out nice. And this was, we had custom made because these wall thicknesses are a little bit different. So, and then, we had to compromise on some of these electrical outlets that we couldn't run within the wall because we didn't have spacing. So we have the exterior, which is not so bad. Most of the other outlets we got within the wall. And kind of got creative with some other stuff. But yeah, so we're almost there. We're gonna leave this wall in the closet, the printed element. So at least there's something to remember the print by, because by the time this is done, it's not gonna look like a printed house.
Which is a good or a bad thing, depending on
Good or bad, I know. I kind of miss it, actually. I kind of, driving up here, it's like, oh, there's no more printed walls. But yeah, for the most part, we had some things we had to, outlets or holes that didn't work out, so we had to surface mount. But overall, that was a pretty good method. We'll alter it for the next one. And you see some of the grooves that we put for switches and stuff, we ended up abandoning. So another kind of, lessons learned kind of a thing.
My name is Kendra Light, and we're back here at the 3D printed house, Florida's first 3D printed home here in Tallahassee. I am the CEO and owner of Precision Building and Renovating, as well as Gulf Coast Additive Manufacturing and Design, which partnered to build this house. So we are at the phase now where we are done with the smooth stucco, almost finished with the smooth stuccoing for the outside, and you can see we've just created sills and curved into the windows and doors so that we can avoid having to do any trim work. And it's going to give it a nice clean look when it's all finished. This entire exterior will be painted white, and then of course we haven't put up the final softenings and things like that yet, but that will all be white.
Cool. This was one of the ideas that we wanted to implement originally, that we actually were able to, and it turned out really nice. For the most part, could have been a little bit better, of course, but we wanted to wrap the stucco into the window, and we used a replacement style window, which is doesn't have the flange. So we were able to set the window and mud to it. So it turned out pretty good.
Is this a method you'll repeat?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I'll probably have a little better system of installing a window during the print. So I'll have less of a stucco job to deal with, or any stucco job. I could avoid it completely. It just depends on what the look the customer wants.
Cool.
Oh, okay, great.
Well, you can still see the remnants of course, this was a problem that we had to deal with during the print, where we had to change the print midway, where you see we had to cut. We over extruded too much. We changed it between days. We shrunk the opening, and then now we can stucco. But here's where we'll wrap it in. But this one is not as good as the windows as far as the spacing.
Truss roof with shingles. We have to sheetrock on the ceiling. So that just got finished, and you can see turned out really nice. And of course, we have the 9-foot ceilings in this house to give it a nice open feel. But yeah, they did a really good job. So our next phase will be to finish the plaster that is happening. So you can see in this room, they finished that. Where you've got the smooth plaster on the interior that's wrapping right into those ceilings. So you get a nice finished look. Once this is all painted, it'll all blend together.
Yeah, and we did have, we had this wall, the print wall, was pretty rough. So we decided to just fur it out and put plasterboard so that we can stucco it to look similar as far as instead of sheetrock. But we were kind of strategic with what would, if it was too much trouble with stucco, we just went over it. Really, this was the only one that we had that issue with.
Right.
That's why we have this cement board here. This is typically in the bathroom, but
We still want to make sure that we were keeping with the
yeah,
mold and
we
mildew
can
resistance.
plaster it the same look.
So it would be cheaper with this and the layer of plaster than just using a ton of plaster.
Right,
There's a bunch
because
of
you can
mud.
see, so here is where you can see the scratch coat went on, and then they have to put the plaster over that. So it was quite an extensive process that, we probably will not repeat on
Yeah.
future prints.
Ideally,
So-
if the layer quality was good, I mean, leaving it and painting it, that's what I'd like to do. But even if the layer quality was a little bit better than what we had, we could have just done a scratch coat and then a top coat. But instead, we actually had to do an entire bed of mud to blend the layer quality to a somewhat flat surface, and then the scratch coat. So we actually had an extra layer of stucco work. So just another step, another added cost that we would avoid in the future, but for this one we had to deal with what we had.
So this is a specialty trade. It takes a lot of skill, and we really just don't have as many of this level of skilled masonry people around anymore. And so the guy that did this, he's a good friend of ours. He's from the West Indies, and he's been doing this for a very, very long time. And we are just lucky enough to know him and have him working with us on this project. But to duplicate this at a mass level would not be feasible.
Almost here at the end of, we're about to do landscaping and some flat work and a little patio here. We still have the feet because they're so heavy. I have to have special equipment to pick them up. So yeah, you can still see where we had the silo sitting and the pump with those railroad ties. This was a big part of the process that was very difficult to deal with, but there are already solutions out there to resolve that. But
So what will you improve for the next one in terms of equipment management?
smaller silo, a better silo, and then possibly a more automated setup. I think Cobot even has a better system now with the mixing on site. And then, the pump, we had pump issues, so having multiple having spare parts that we can change out, kind of like a NASCAR, because we would have to we'd have to clean it, and we'd have to stop production, and that was problematic with the hoses, and so having something we can just swap and clean it off site and swap to another one, all these little things, 1,000 little things that we do differently. We're the final push for the house. We're going to do flat work and landscaping, and then we'll do flooring and cabinets, and we should be just about there.
Yeah.
So another few weeks, maybe a month, we'll have a kind of a grand
Finished
opening.
product. Yeah, grand opening. If anybody wants to stay connected with us and see how things are progressing, you can connect with us at rethinkconstruction.com. We are also, from there you can get links to social media and LinkedIn's and things like that too. So we're excited to stay in touch. So depending on supply chain, we are expecting a printer here sometime this summer, and with that we'll be starting internship programs for paid internship programs in the fall, hopefully.
Or the spring.
So yeah.